Hello guys, I'm Lidik and welcome to my channel. Hello everyone. Today I'm gonna show you a build that I'm using mainly for OPRs and wars. This build is great for high damage and big number of kills. The problem is that it has its weaknesses, but stick around and you will see what I'm talking about. The build is based on Fire Staff and Ice Gauntlet, and its main purpose is to go as high as possible critical chances, which will mean that you would hit as many as possible critical damages to your opponents. As you can see, my Fire Staff is with Keen, Vicious and Keenly Empowered. My Ice Gauntlet is with Pylon, Vicious and Keenly Jagged. My hat is with Resilient Pillar and Elemental Aversion. My chest piece is with Resilient Elemental Aversion and Empowering Fireball. My gloves are with Resilient Elemental Aversion and Refreshing. My pants are with Resilient Shirking Energy and Elemental Aversion. The boots with Resilient, Refreshing and Physical Aversion. For jewelries, I use two different sets. The first one is Trust Protection, Health and Refreshing for an amulet, Champion's Ring with Hearty, Keen Awareness and Invigorated Punishment, and Earring with Refreshing Toast, Refreshing and Purifying Toast. The other set of jewelries that I have is an earring with Refreshing, Refreshing Toast and Focused, which is giving you mana regeneration. This one I use only in wars in order to free up my spot of the mana potion. There is a better earring that you can use in this slot, and this is on the place of Focused. You can get a Healthy Toast, which will give you even extra health when you're drinking mana potions. And for Amulet, I'm changing to Slash Protection, Stamina Recovery and Health. This of course depends on the enemies. If I feel like they have way too many Sword and Shield or Great Sword players, or I'm having really tough time with their assassins, I'm going to this combination instead. For the skill trees, I'm running the following. For Fire Staff, I'm taking the 3 points in Pillar of Fire. We have the 5% bonus damage for each smolder stack and the mana recovery on each hit. Then we have a heavy no mana consumption plus 5% recovery on hit and the 10% cooldown reduction on hit of a heavy attack. Then we go for 5% in power if we are above 50% mana, so this is really important to keep your mana up and on the high end. Then 2 points into Fireball. The first one is the spell itself and the second is for the smolder stack. Then we get the light and heavy attacks inflict smolder. As I said, smolder is really important, it's the key of this build. And then you have the 5% more damage if you are not in combat for the last 3 seconds. We definitely need the 10% critical chance as we are running a critical chance build, and we need of course the 15% critical damage bonus, which I will go over in a bit. This is must have 2 perks. Then we have of course Rune of Helios. It's 20% of Empower and it's really crucial to our build. On the right side of the tree we take a passive, as we don't need a flamethrower. We take this passive, Pyromania, which is giving us 10% increased damage to targets with burn or smolder, and then we have the dodging through enemies, applying a smolder. And then you have 2 points of passives of burnout, the first one giving you lower cooldown for each target hit, and the second the explosion at the end. This is again really crucial passive, and I will let you guys know why. The last point, you can use it for Watch It Burn, which is also giving every critical that you do a smolder, which is really highly valuable for this build. Again, we are running critical build, so this is really important. You can also run, for example, Kindle for longer period of duration for the smolders, or you can use the combat speed, but I highly suggest you to take Watch It Burn. For the Ice Gauntlet, we are going with those spells that you see on your screen. And why I'm going with this one, I will let you know really fast. So on the left side, we are taking just two passives. The first one is giving us 15 mana whenever we critically hit someone. It's really crucial to have our mana up, as we saw 5% more in power. It's really nice to have. So, and there is no more value in the other passive that we can take, which is Code Reach, because we are not having the Ice Gauntlet all the time up. Then we have the Energized Critical, which is giving us more damage on the Ice Gauntlet abilities while our stamina is full. Now this again is really not that often that we're gonna have full stamina, plus we have only one damaging ability, but it's still better than the two passives on the right side. So what we take here is Pylon. We need all of the perks for the Pylon, as you can see the whole tree of it, and this is our best buddy on tough situations when we get chased down by assassins or other melee players. Then we take Ice Shower, of course, which is also helping us to get away with the root of enemy or a movement speed buff. And we take all of the passives that the Ice Shower provides. On the right side, we take Entombed, which is also providing a defense to us, and it's also clearing all of the debuffs that we have. It's really nice spell, I really love it, and if I can lower the cooldown of it, I'm really trying to do that. So how can we lower the cooldown? We go for Refreshing Frost, which is giving us 20% cooldown reduction to all abilities if we use a spell on Frosted Area. And the frosted area is created by the Pylon because it creates a frosted area around it in which we can reduce our cooldowns if we cast another Ice Gauntlet ability on it. So the other buff that we get in this frosted area is from this passive, which is Quick Frost. If you have frosted area and you are in it, you have 10% movement speed. On top of that, we have the 20% Fortify, which is, as we said, not greatest, but it's still something good in which you can use in different scenarios. And then for blocking stamina, it's a must-have, especially against assassins, which are using hatchets, because the hatchet doesn't have a good stamina damage. So basically you can block all of the light attacks from the hatchet. So let me explain you how exactly this build works. As we know, not long ago in a patch they changed how critical chance and critical damage is working. Now in the game we have different formulas, and the critical chances of ranged weapons were adjusted in a way so they can be more useful. For example, the Fire Staff has now a critical chance of 10%, and previously those 10% were multiplied or doubled, let's say, for each attack that is non-crit. I will give you some numbers. For example, if you had a 20% critical chance and you didn't hit a critical on your first attack, this means that for your second attack you would have 40%. Now it's a little bit different. Those 20%, if you don't crit on your first attack, will only be gaining the base critical chance of your weapon of choice, which means that if we use a Fire Staff, those 20% will gain a 10 more and they will reach 30% chance. So why should we use critical chance and critical damage if those two things were nerfed, you ask? I will explain you. If we have a 10% critical chance on the Fire Staff just by itself, we have also 10% critical chance from the skill tree of a passive. We go to 20% critical chance on our abilities, which is our main source of damage, in this case Fireball and mainly Pillar of Fire. If we run a Keen on our weapon, this would give us 12% more of critical chance, and we are looking into 32% of critical chance on abilities. If we run Keen on our ring, we would have another 12% of critical chance, which means that our abilities now have 44% critical chance. Our basic attacks, of course, will have 10% less, but our abilities are our main priority. In order to understand why we need to have those higher critical chances, we first need to look at the critical damage on its own. For the fire staff, the critical damage is 1.25 by default, or as base critical damage of the weapon. However, we have a passive that is giving us 15% critical damage, or in other words, 1.25 is now 1.40 as a critical damage. If we have an enemy with 5 resilient pieces and 150 constitution, he would have 35% reduced critical damage received. Now, looking into it, having 1.4 multiplier against 1.35 resilient, it's not really worth it. But here is the kicker. The fire staff has 1.40 before any perks or buffs, which means that when we apply vicious to it, we receive 12% critical damage increase. Now those 1.4 multipliers are going up to 1.52, but this is not the end, because we have a perk or a bonus from the intelligence tree that is giving us another 10% critical damage bonus, which means that our critical damage now is not 1.52, it's 1.62, which means that we are far on top of the critical damage mitigation of our enemies, even if they run 5 resilience and they have 150 constitution. The playstyle of this build is, as you might guess, a little bit stat padding. Now, I would say that it's not really stat padding if you know what you're doing, but you can easily get lured into just hitting people for no reason. Your main goal with this build should be to gain a position where you are not really in danger from the enemy's assassins or other ranged players, and you should try to aim at either clumps or healers. Now, I'm running 100 constitution into OPRs, but for wars I'm going with 150 just because of the bigger scale and the bigger amount of people that can maybe hit me. In order to keep yourself safe, you have to remember that you need to keep distance. Now, distance in which you can of course damage the enemies, but distance safe enough to see enemies approaching you or trying to flank you and kill you. Make sure that you are safe enough, because you are also not running stone form, you are running detonate. And here is the part where you are risking really a lot when you go with detonate and you are using your burnout. I know that the video might be too short to explain everything, but that's why you should definitely join our Discord community or join us when we are streaming in Kick, so we can discuss those things and maybe you can give me some positive feedback which I can use in the future. Of course, we can discuss other topics as well, so go and hit that like button. Thank you again for watching and see you on the next one.